Hello. A big part of my channel here is really meant to be dedicated to people who are also auditorily inclined, people who respond especially strongly to the power of voice. I'm certainly one of these people. It's a big part of the reason why I like to do storytelling that's improvised, that's audio based rather than write it up as a blog or text somewhere only. Similarly, when I'm explaining board games or going through the rules of them or why I like them, it's very voice focused, and for me, the voice, the human voice, no matter whose it is, will always have a special kind of power. A power to be both relaxing and nurturing and stimulating in a positive sense at the same time. I have a playlist that is labeled as ASMR, and really, so far, it's mostly just been videos where I feel the vocal element could be relaxing. Because for many people, like myself, it's not too hard to find a voice that's relaxing or reassuring. And I do like finding these voices. I've certainly been very inspired by audiobook readers, by voiceover artists, and by ASMR artists on YouTube as well. This is probably the first video where I'm attempting to make anything like a more standard, traditional type of ASMR video. So clearly it's not going to be all that good yet. So of course any feedback or suggestions or ideas, and if you want to write in the comments, you're terrible, never do ASMR again, don't do anything, that's okay. I'll still keep trying though. Trying and failing, that's sort of my thing. But I think this could be fun. I think different people are able to provide a different variety of ASMR experience. And I'm not sure if I've found where I would fit into that yet. But I know the kinds of things I would like talking about. Being a big theater geek and having a background in improv and role-playing and acting and all that dorky theater stuff, it's natural for me to want to do role-playing ASMR. And yet I don't know if I feel confident enough to pull it off. But I figure I'll start with just speaking directly to you, directly to the audience, and talking about something that's near and dear to my heart, which is board games. It's not my only hobby, but clearly board games are a very important hobby to me, very central, and really delving into the rules of a given board game, or enhancing the components, or improving variants or house rules, or playing with an understanding of kind of breaking the game, if you will, or just getting into the theme of the game. I love so many types of board games, from very abstract games to heavily themed games to Amerithrash style games to party games to Euro games to all the different types of hybrids that exist somewhere in between. or don't fit into any of these categories. But I wanted to kind of make this about why I think board games are so special and why I think they'll always have a special place in our world, in our lifetime, in our society. There's a few things that are uniquely wonderful about them. So the first thing to point out is that when I say board game, I don't just mean games that have a literal board. I'm really talking about anything that is a tabletop experience. So a tabletop experience could be card games, it could be tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons. Although for me, the kind of games that I'm most into are ones that don't require a campaign, meaning people could jump in and out in a given game or session. You don't have to get the same group each time. I also really like it when the game is easy to teach new players, even if it's somewhat complicated, as long as it has an intuitive quality about it. And if I could choose one or the other, I would choose for it to be more thematic or story-driven or immersive or atmospheric rather than abstracted. But I do think there's a place for abstract games, certainly. Sorry, I was making sure the camera was still working there. It seems to be. But perhaps in other videos I'll go more into talking about which games are my favorite and why, and which I think are especially good or overrated or underrated. There's definitely time to go into all of that, but for this video, this attempt at making an ASMR video, I'll just talk about why I think board games have this special place. Why I think they're not going away. So the first reason has to do with how uniquely social they are. Board games are interactive. They involve eye contact almost throughout the entirety. They're in an atmosphere where there's an excuse and a chance to speak with each other, talk with each other, socialize, even in the midst of a tense theme or story. Online video games and multiplayer games that you play together, you still are always looking at the screen. You're not looking and talking directly to the other person as much. Still you are somewhat, and I do like video games. But with board games, it's less about having the board as an intermediary and more that the board, the table, is what you're using as a venue to talk to each other. So as social as video games can be, board games are even more social and interactive. In terms of game mechanisms, some board games are much more interactive than others, some more confrontational, some more cooperative, and some are just like competitive solitaire. But even the ones that are like competitive solitaire, they still provide a reason and a rationale to bring people together at a single table, facing each other and interacting, giving board games an in-person social advantage over other hobbies, many of them, perhaps not all. That's the first reason. The second reason is that even though the bits and components of board games are representational, the little army guy represents a battalion of soldiers, but it's not really a battalion of soldiers, perhaps. But it's a physical thing. It's kinesthetic. It's more than three-dimensional. It's tactile. You can touch it and feel it and move it. You don't have to have a representation of moving it like with a mouse or controller. You pick it up with your body and touch it with your body, and this tactile experience is part of the reason why I think board games will always have a unique and special place in society. The third reason is because they are often immersive. They could be immersive in the way the theme comes to life or is represented through the mechanisms. They could be immersive in the way that the strategy draws you in. They could be atmospheric and full of great storyline. Sometimes there isn't that strong of a theme except for beautiful art and graphic design that is evocative of the world, the atmosphere, the universe that the game is about. They draw you into something. Now, granted, books and movies and video games can do this too. But this is yet one more thing that's also found in board games. The next reason as well is that they are a puzzle. Whether it's a competitive solitaire puzzle or a directly combative confrontational puzzle of strategy or a cooperative teamwork puzzle to solve together. Whether it's a puzzle that is totally deterministic or a puzzle with unknown information or a puzzle with hidden information or a puzzle that's mitigated with randomizers and luck thrown in as well. Board games in general, tabletop games, are a puzzle, something that you can have fun as a brain burner solving. They're mentally stimulating. They are engaging in this way, and good for your mind as a result. And then another reason as well for board games being special is that even though technology in making miniatures or cardboard chips or plasticized cards or metal bits or whatever component quality or type or elements the game is made of physically, as long as it's made reasonably durably, and as long as you take a reasonably good care of it, board games are, at least in the context of one or two lifetimes, perhaps more, they are future-proof. You don't have to worry about an operating system making your board game become obsolete. You don't have to be concerned about the power going out. There's always candles. You don't have to have the right console or the right TV or make sure a disc isn't scratched or that you're able to download from the cloud or that you have internet service. everything you need is right there in the box, except for the things that most people already have. Light, tables, and chairs. If you don't have light, a table, and chairs, then the shortcomings of board games or video games are not your biggest concern. The box that's a board game kept in good condition from the 1930s will still play the same today. It's hard to trust in the same reliability of a PlayStation 1 you find in your attic and the games. You could. You could re-download it. It's my kitty cat villain. I hope it doesn't disturb the ASMR video too much. If it does, let me know. I'll try to find a way to distract the cats before I make these videos. But I am looking for feedback on presentation, on voice, if it's more relaxing or stimulating for you, if it's more of a gentle, soft talking like I am now, or if it's better if it's completely a whisper like this, or if it would be better to have some videos that are all about gentle, soft talking, and other videos that are entirely made of whispers, or if you like to have a mix of both. I am genuinely curious about what you think. If you just say, oh, you're terrible, give up, again, I'm too stubborn, I'm not going to stop. But as long as you're okay with that, if you give me some feedback about what you would like to see as far as presentation style, and as far as content or topic. So, for example, I have a green screen I can use. We use it occasionally for some live streaming. I think that could be a fun thing to do for some role-playing elements, role-playing aspects. I'm not sure how popular those are, but I think they're pretty popular. And everyone is different in what they like. For me, I've often been more especially interested in just someone directly talking to me. Like how I'm directly talking to you, rather than role-playing. But occasionally I do like that also. It's off camera right now, but you can't see my hand. But I'm petting my cat currently, who wants some attention. I think it seemed like the internet was taken over by cats when the internet got big, but I think we've always loved cats as a human race. They've always been very special to us. Even though cats and board games are often anathema, is that the right word? Kind of mortal enemies, because the game can get knocked over and tossed about so easily from the earnest jump of the cat. I think there's so many different board games, so thinking about that. And I used to have so many more. I moved a few years ago, and when I moved, I only had so much room in the truck. I had to leave a lot of games behind. So I have a small collection now compared to what I used to have. What I'll do here, if there's time, is I'll read off some of the games that I have. I have Shadows over Camelot, which is a wonderful game, one of the most beautiful games physically, and the theme comes out even if some elements of it feel dated. It really comes to life. And along with another one called Dark Moon, which was originally Battlestar Galactica Light. I'll always feel like playing these two more than Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica is a great game, but so overlong, a bit drawn out. But for the full board game experience with hidden traders and objectives and potentially fully cooperative game, for me the two best are Shadows over Camelot, which is the Camelot King Arthur version, of course, and Dark Moon, which had gameplay originally based on Battlestar Galactica, but ends up feeling more like the Aliens movies. It's not as beautiful of a game, but mechanically, I think it's even better, and I love how they incorporate Liar's Dice into it. Liar's Dice mechanisms, I should say. Fury of Dracula is another one that I came into in the last year or so, and I love it. Originally, I shied from it, thinking that it would be too clunky, but it's come to completely replace Scotland Yard and Letters from Whitechapel and perhaps even Spectre Ops, as well as certainly Ninja Legend of the Scorpion Clan, as my favorite hidden movement game. The Dracula theme, as it is in the novel, really comes to life in the 3rd and 4th edition, despite having some rules clarification needed. I think are just so wonderful. I love Fury of Dracula. I used to have everything that was made for Small World, but now I have Small World Underground, which I love, and Small World Sky Islands, the expansion for it as well. A great gateway game, and for dudes on a map style, with an experience where you feel thematic and have variable player powers and combinations and drafting races and still having a sense of armies fighting and battling, but in a more fairy tale, lighthearted way, but also with fast-paced, basically deterministic combat instead of a long, slow slog. It really works. Small World will always be such a winner, even though it can sometimes take a couple games before you really get it. And depending on what expansions and combinations you're playing with, it's a different game every single time. I have Jamaica, the pirate racing game, along with Jamaica, the crew. And I really think that this is one of the best racing games ever, to have so much theme and pirate flavor and fun and combat and mixed together in such a nice and elegant package. The crew, I think, really adds something. I don't think it's an unnecessary expansion like some people have suggested. It's still good without it, sure, but Jamaica's a wonderful game. It's also great for new gamers or non-gamers. I love games also that have simultaneous play, where you choose an action or card at the same time as someone else. You know, like the whole rock, paper, scissors thing. Fury of Dracula has that with its combat. Jamaica has that with the pirate card you play for that turn. What are some other simultaneous action selection games that I have? Cash and Guns is a wonderful party game with great bluffing, simultaneous action, and of course, simultaneous action means that there's less downtime, because even if you have to resolve in turn order, or you resolve one by one, the thing or action or activity or choice that was made, you still get rid of analysis paralysis because everyone is choosing at the same time. And therefore, there's more of a sense of tension or pressure to make your decision because you can't, because you feel as though you're holding up everyone else if you don't. The irony of this is that because everyone's going at once, and you don't have to wait turn by turn, any given person should feel more time is available. Whereas with games that are completely turn-based, when it is someone's turn, depending on the game, but especially with hand management games, people often feel a kind of sense of entitlement, a sense of wanting to camp down and nestle into their turn, really stretch it for what it's worth, really use it. And that's where analysis paralysis can happen. So even though it's an ironic and perhaps paradoxical psychological mechanism at play, simultaneous action games really are often wonderful for keeping the pacing going and cracking down on analysis paralysis. I certainly don't have time to mention all the games I have, but some more simultaneous action selection games. Another interesting one is Isle of Skye. It's a bidding game, but really more of a price-setting game. It gets mixed reviews from a lot of my friends, but I really love it. For me, it is so much better than Carcassonne, and really replaces Carcassonne. But as far as setting the prices for the plots of land that you have, it's all done simultaneously. Everyone chooses and reveals at once. The two-player abstracted war game that's pretty light, Sun Tzu. I love Sun Tzu. And what's really cool about it is that since you decide what card to play on each province every turn, it's basically 5 simultaneous actions, each revealed one after another, turn by turn. It's really exciting and great combat. Great abstract game. Viceroy is a game that's hard to describe. It's draft crafting, sure. It's kind of tableau building and engine building akin to Splendor. And it uses a bidding system that is a kind of simultaneous bidding that can involve a sort of push your luck element with how many times you want to try bidding on the same card versus giving up on it. I like Viceroy a lot. And there's an expansion coming out as well. In terms of pure simultaneous action selection, Sneaks and Snitches will always be one of my favorites, by the legendary Vlada. As far as thinking that whole classic simultaneous action conundrum epitomized by Princess Bride is the poison in my cup or your cup? Where should I go? Which card should I play? If I think you'll go here, then I'll go there, but you know that I'll think that, so you'll go there. Sneaks and Snitches is wonderful in that regard. I should have a whole video about Sneaks and Snitches and why it's so great. Now, Godzilla Stomp is also a more simple, pure version of this and kind of feels a little bit like Sneaks and Snitches. But in some ways it can be almost too simplistic. Whereas Sneaks and Snitches has just the right amount of brilliant depth and elegance. Also by Vlada is Space Alert. Not only is Space Alert simultaneous decisions, but it's a real-time game and a fully cooperative game. It's unlike anything you've played before, even not really comparable to its closest cousin, which is Galaxy Trucker, also by Vlada. Resistance Avalon, like some other great secret identity bluffing games, has simultaneous decision-making, especially in the form of voting for the party to go on the mission, and the decision made by the people going on the quest about whether to fail or succeed in the mission. It will always remain as really one of the best and most beloved secret identity hidden agenda games. And it's really purely about the secret identity and hidden traitor, unlike Shadows over Camelot and Dark Moon and Battlestar Galactica and Dead of Winter, where there's a full-fledged hidden traitor secret identity element, but that is tacked upon a full-fledged, fleshed-out board game, which is great. But with Resistance Avalon, it's all about the former. More pure in that way. Bloodborne, the card game, with 3 to 5 players, is one of the best simple simultaneous action selection games where pretty much all of the meaningful choices you make are done simultaneously, yet still more theme and flavor and dark atmosphere pops out of it than many games that are much more complicated than it. I like that a lot. I have many other games, but those are probably those are a few of my favorite simultaneous action games or simultaneous play games, and a few others. I'd like to go more into board game talk in general and talk about what I like in games and what I think makes games really good. But for this video, I'm just, I'm obviously flustered and unsure and nervous and expecting this video to fail, but I need to fail a few times or more before I really get the hang of it and become halfway competent. So I really just, if you clicked on this video at all, if you watched up to this point, or even if you just watched a few minutes, I really appreciate that a lot. It is encouraging. Even if you leave a critical or negative feedback, it's still helpful. Even if you say, F off, quit ASMR, jump off a cliff. Hey, it's still nice because it means you cared enough to say something. I posted a video where I was acting a bit silly in my, speak with a perfect American accent kind of ESL playlist sort of thing. And I was making goofy faces and trying to be funny or charming or something, and I watched it later and I realized that it was mortifyingly embarrassing. And I was like, oh my god, is that what my face sounds like? If the face sounds like, is that what my face looks like? Is that what I sound like? And some videos I've done, I've gotten pretty good feedback, but this one, when I posted a link to it also on Reddit, the first comment was someone saying, cringe. I don't blame them. I think I need to lean into that even if I'm not in the quote-unquote problematic sense or, malicious sense, a lot of my videos will always be a little bit embarrassingly cringy, so maybe I'm just a cringy weirdo, but that's alright. We can have fun with that, I suppose. Some folks gotta be cringy weirdos to make everyone else look a bit more normal, perhaps. We're doing our part so that you feel more normal. Do you have any favorite board games that you'd like me to talk about or speculate on expansions, or it doesn't have to be board games, could be movies or shows or books as well. I am curious though what people are interested in hearing about, especially from kind of someone like me with kind of a off-brand villain vibe, kind of dollar store Dracula sort of, soap opera understudy villain kind of aspect, which is arguably unusual for someone trying to be an ASMR artist and performer, content producer. Usually they're more, I think, sprightly and less coming across in a weird or intense way, less creeper than how I appear or come across perhaps online. I assure you that I'm really not a creeper, but that would be something a creeper would probably say. But being a big theater geek, I have enjoyed playing a lot of bad guys. And I do, in bringing it back to games, I do Even though I would never want to in real life, I do love playing the bad guy characters in board games. Maybe that's why I love Chaos in the Old World so much, where you each play as a different demon god, vying to compete and rend and tear apart the earth and humans and lay corruption and defilement, both against your fellow Chaos gods and against the denizens of the old world, of the fantasy universe, of Fantasy Warhammer, which I'm otherwise not as familiar with. Hope to see you guys soon. Use guys in the broad, gender-neutral sense. Feel free to like, subscribe, share, notification, all that stuff if you're interested. Otherwise, don't worry about it. I'll see you next time.